Chris Mannix for the crossover alongside Rowan Ned Carney and Howard Beck. Guys, just as everybody predicted, the soon to be owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves will be none other than Alex Rodriguez. Rodriguez reportedly coming in and finalizing a deal with Glenn Taylor of the Timberwolves in what is a stunner of an ownership transaction. This, of course, will start speculation that Rodriguez, a former Mariner, will push to have the Timberwolves move to Seattle. So, Rowan, I guess I'll ask you, are the Timberwolves better off in Seattle?
Chris, I don't think I can advocate for any team, any city to lose their basketball team. And I don't think it would be fair to Seattle to get a team in the manner in which their team was taken from them. This is really just a problem that the NBA created when it relocated to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's proven to be a very good fan base and a very good organization. But the NBA is in a bit of a pickle here, in my opinion, because I don't think you can take a team out of Minnesota. I don't think it would be fair to those fans. On the other hand, I think Seattle deserves a team. They'll probably get a team as an expansion at some point. But do you want to water down the league in that manner? Do you have to add two teams if you had an expansion franchise? I don't think the solution is taking the Timberwolves out of Minnesota. I can't sit here and advocate for that after that's what was done to Seattle. But the NBA just created this problem once they relocated the Sonics in the first place, because now their choices are to have another city lose their team or water down the league even further.
Yeah, look, there is a case for moving them, and it's not really about market size. Minnesota's right around, I think, 14th in the Nielsen rankings, and Seattle's only a couple slots higher at 12th. But Seattle is a market that is a large market, a substantial market, and a great basketball market, and the NBA does need to be back there. And Rohan, you mentioned it. If it's not expansion, which I agree, that will water down the league. If it's not expansion, then inevitably, if it's ever going to be an NBA team back in Seattle, it has to be relocation. Minnesota is among the teams that at least have to be considered in concept. This is no disrespect to those fans or anybody there, but the fact is this team has lagged in the bottom third of attendance for almost the entirety of the last 15 years. And you could say that that's because the product hasn't been that great. You'd be correct. They've had a lot of struggles, and maybe new ownership is the jolt of energy and infusion of new ideas that the Wolves need to turn this around, and then the fans will return. But they have attendance issues, they have arena issues. If this is not at least a discussion point, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, the three teams that I have often looked at as being prime Seattle relocation franchises have been New Orleans, Memphis, and now Minnesota. And a change of ownership is not going to stop speculation. Now, Glenn Taylor, the owner, has come out and said they're going to put language in the contract of sale that says the team has to be kept in Minnesota. But that kind of stuff can be amended over time. There is a lease with the Target Center that runs through 2034-35, but that lease can be broken with a $50 million payment, which sounds like a lot, but to move a team to a new city and reap the benefits of it, it's really not all that significant. So I look at this as still being a possibility. Now, are they better off going there? I don't know. I mean, look, I understand what Howard's saying, that Minnesota has not been the greatest franchise in terms of support. Seattle does have rabid sports fans that supported that team. Remember, the only reason they moved, or one of the only reasons they moved the Sonics, was that Key Arena was a disaster. Now it's more likely than not they'll have a new arena in place for an NBA team. But Howard, even though they're saying, Glenn Taylor is saying that this team will be kept in Minnesota, until they sign some kind of, or until they build a new arena out there or do something that is really going to entrench that team in Minneapolis, it's always going to be something we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And look, they can condition the sale on agreements about keeping the team there, but I'm going to guess, just to keep their own options open, just as businessmen, that Alex Rodriguez and his business partner are going to try to put in some conditions that get them out of that condition under certain circumstances. Maybe that's about getting a new arena or arena renovations and public funding. Maybe it's about if attendance dips below a certain marker. You can always put something else in there that is conditional within the arrangement in terms of the sale. We don't know where that's going to go. And there's a lot that still has to be done here. And this sale is far from final. And it'll be at least another couple of years before they assume complete control of the franchise. But as I say, as long as fan support there is kind of soft, as long as there are arena concerns, And given A-Rod's ties to Seattle and how badly I think the NBA wants to be back there, this is going to be in the discussion in one form or another.
Let me ask you this, Rohan. Are you in favor of expansion? Because I don't think there's enough talent for 30 teams, much less 32. Now, there would have to be 2 teams added to the mix to balance things out. Maybe you do Las Vegas, maybe you do Seattle, you move Memphis and New Orleans into the Eastern Conference. But I don't think the NBA needs to be expanding anytime soon.
Yeah, I think we're in complete agreement there. I mean, it would be great for the players, like to have teams in markets like Seattle and Las Vegas, or markets where more players want to live in and play. But I'm with you. I mean, we already see so many teams, whether it's just outright tanking or being bad every year. Injuries are piling up. I think adding 2 more teams, 30 more roster spots to the mix. I don't think that's going to be good for the product. I'm with you there. It's not that there aren't good basketball players, but we're not going to be seeing more great teams if we add 2 more teams to the mix to balance everything out. I think that would be a big mistake.
Howard, what do you think?
No, expansion, I've been against this every time it comes up. I am just absolutely philosophically opposed. And the easiest way to look at it is this. Think of when SI or ESPN or anybody else ranks the entirety of the NBA. Just go down to the last 30 players on that list out of the 450 to 500, whatever. Wipe those guys, or take those guys. Now form 2 more teams with those guys, essentially. And that's not exactly the way an expansion draft works. But if you're this is what happens. You end up bringing in more G leaguers, maybe more international players. And look, there's a lot of, because of the strength of the game globally, there are a lot more good players, but there aren't enough great players. And if you look around the league right now, you already have franchises that don't have a single guy who you can call your identity. And that's the problem. And so you have too many teams that just have nowhere to go, no way of improving without getting a guy, and there just aren't that many of those guys. So expansion, it's probably great for the bottom line of all the current owners who will all get a cut of the expansion fee. And it's great for fans in a couple of new markets, but it's going to water down the product. It's going to make for a lot more bad basketball.
And I was just getting pumped up for Mexico City to join the ranks of NBA teams. Was looking forward to many, many trips down to Mexico City. For more, check us out over at SI.com.